Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you a video today to share my thoughts on the newly unveiled Adidas Samba PrimeKnit soccer cleat / football boot. Obviously it just got unveiled today. Lots of people are very intrigued about the shoe, but there's a lot of information that is not necessarily being given out in the press release that I wanted to share with you guys. And of course I just wanted to share my overall thoughts on how I think this particular product is going to perform. So if you guys have any thoughts yourself, be sure to leave a comment down below. I'd be very curious to hear what you have to say. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. For those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, as of today, Adidas has unveiled the world's first knitted soccer cleat. Now the highlight of the design is definitely the knitted upper, and for those of you that have not seen it, I'll flash an image on screen. It's a pretty good looking shoe in my opinion, definitely a very simple design, with the base of the boot being the sprint frame from the F50 Adizero. So it's nothing too crazy as far as something completely new, but of course, like I said, the highlight and the focus of this particular shoe is definitely the knitted upper. Now, from what we know, this shoe will release on March 17th, 2014, so a little less than a month from now, and it will be released in limited quantities. This is not a new silo from Adidas, it's a limited edition release, a concept boot if you will. Now the price range is supposedly going to be somewhere around £220, 300 euros, which translates to about $400 US, so it will not be cheap, and it's very likely that most people will not get their hands on this particular shoe. Depending on how it sells, of course, I'm thinking that the interest will be pretty high. Now what they're not telling you is that this shoe is not going to release in North America, which is why I think most people will not be able to get their hands on them. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a pair, to be completely honest with you guys, but like I said, it's not releasing in North America, and this is something that they're not telling you, and the reasoning for not releasing in North America is several legal issues that have been more or less undisclosed over the last year or so. And this has to do with Nike, believe it or not. It's kind of this battle between Nike Flyknit and Nike PrimeKnit. Some of you guys may know what I'm talking about, but we're going to explain that in the video because there is a pretty interesting history, and this is a pretty controversial release from Adidas for the simple fact that they are more or less reversing the roles from what Nike did to them back in 2012. Now, as far as the backstory goes, it's a little bit complicated, so stick with me for a second. Now, going back to the 2012 Olympics, about 2 months prior to the Olympics, Nike unveiled their first Flyknit shoe called the Nike Flyknit Racer. There was also a trainer version available, but again, the concept remained the same in that it was the first shoe ever to feature Nike's Flyknit technology, which is essentially a knitted upper. It offered a sock-like feel. It allowed Nike to engineer ventilation and support and flexibility and just general comfort in different areas of the upper where it needed it most. And again, the concept was to provide a sock-like level of comfort and a sock-like type of fit. Very, very cool idea, and the idea definitely went over very well and has been successful for Nike over the last couple of years, as we've seen several different variations of Nike Flyknit technology, with the newest one being this shoe right here, the Nike Flyknit Lunar 2. Very cool shoe. I'll leave an annotation on screen for all the shoes that I'm showing, so go ahead and check those out if you would like more info. Now, like I said, these were unveiled 2 months prior to the Olympics. Adidas decided to unveil their PrimeKnit shoe, the Adizero PrimeKnit, 1 day before the Olympics, so after Nike unveiled Flyknit, and because of that, they got a bad rep for copying Nike. Now, as far as this shoe goes, the technology is similar in that it is still a knitted upper, but the way that the support is created is a little bit different, which is why PrimeKnit and Flyknit, while similar, are not necessarily the exact same thing, which we're going to get into in just a second. Again, if you want to check out the video I have for these, I'll leave an annotation on screen. Now, since the PrimeKnit shoe released after the Flyknit shoe, Nike decided that they were going to sue Adidas for essentially copying their idea, and rightfully so. I guess I understand why they would do that. They are big competitors to very large companies, but obviously Nike knew that Adidas did not copy them, and I don't feel that at all. Both of these companies have been developing these two different technologies for years and years and years, and it was just unfortunate for Adidas that Nike unveiled Flyknit prior to them unveiling PrimeKnit. If it was the other way around, I'm sure the lawsuit would be the other way around. Adidas would be suing Nike and not vice versa. But anyways, that lawsuit happened. These ended up getting pulled from shelves illegal to sell because, like I said, there was a lawsuit involved with this particular product, with Nike claiming that Adidas had copied their idea, and Adidas ended up winning that lawsuit. The judge ruled that basically you can't copy a knitted material. It's been used on shoes since the 1940s. While they are similar, they are not the same, and it's kind of hard to patent or to claim a knitted upper on a shoe of any kind, because while knitted uppers in this particular form are relatively new, there have been knitted materials used on shoes, and that's basically the conclusion that dictated the overall ruling of this particular case. Now, obviously, this particular lawsuit is not over because, like I said, there are still outstanding legal issues where, as of right now, PrimeKnit is not sold in North America at all. I haven't seen it sold anywhere, and it won't be sold with the upcoming Samba PrimeKnit. So that's kind of why this shoe will not be releasing in North America. Hopefully that clarifies everything for you. But like I mentioned earlier, now the roles are getting reversed. Adidas has now unveiled their PrimeKnit shoe to the soccer world. Whereas we just saw yesterday as well, Nike did their little viral commercial for a Magista shoe that's going to be unveiled on March 6th with a little Flyknit branding there at the end of the commercial. So obviously we're going to be seeing some Flyknit technology in Nike's soccer range, but will Adidas be accusing Nike of copying them now? Because technically they unveiled a knitted shoe prior to Nike doing it. So again, kind of a big mess here, but that's enough of that. Let's get into more about the shoe itself. Before I get into how I think this shoe is going to feel and perform, I want to more clearly explain what exactly Adidas PrimeKnit actually is, because there's a lot of confusion around this particular material. Now, a lot of people I think at this point have seen Nike Flyknit in person. They've held it in their hand, and Flyknit is a very different technology from PrimeKnit in terms of how it feels. Flyknit is more of a true yarn upper. There's no kind of rigidity to the yarn itself. It's very, very soft, and the construction is overall a lot different. There's more complex design in Flyknit in comparison to PrimeKnit, at least from what we've seen so far. Nike is really utilizing their Flyknit technology and engineering different shapes, different patterns in the upper in order to create support, in order to create flexibility in the areas that need it. Whereas with Adidas PrimeKnit, all the variations that we've seen so far have more or less been a very similar knit material all the way through, a very similar knit pattern, where the reinforcement is actually in the material itself. Now, this is not a straight up yarn. It's what they call a thermoplastic yarn, where if you think of like a wax lace, for any of you that have seen that before, where there's wax kind of infused into the lace itself, that's what they've done with the yarn on this particular shoe, except it's infused with a plastic material. So essentially what they do is they knit the upper. It ends up being one piece, very, very thin, no liner on the outside, no liner on the inside, one single sock-like material. And what they do is that because it has that plastic infused in the yarn itself, they apply heat to certain areas that require that little bit of extra support. And because of that heat, the plastic in the yarn material melts, and when it dries, it hardens ever so slightly and makes for reinforcement in that area of the shoe. And I think that's what we see in the Samba PrimeKnit shoe for their soccer line anyways. Definitely seems very, very interesting, and for that reason alone, I just don't feel like the durability is going to be an issue. A lot of people are complaining that, oh my gosh, a yarn shoe, it's just going to fall apart like a sock. This is not like a sock. It's very, very tough, surprisingly tough considering that it is a knit material. And I'm just very curious to see how they've implemented it on this Samba shoe, because as we've seen from Nike, from 2012 to 2014, there has been some pretty significant changes and some pretty significant evolution in the overall construction of Flyknit and the overall quality of Flyknit. It really has gotten a lot better. So I'm not sure if we're going to see those major improvements coming from this original PrimeKnit shoe from 2012 to the Samba PrimeKnit in 2014. So, how do I think the Samba PrimeKnit is going to perform? Honestly, I'm pretty optimistic about it. I think that the upper material itself, it's thin enough to where it definitely would be a viable option for a soccer cleat upper just in terms of touch. And I think that the technology lends itself well in that it allows Adidas to put support in areas that need it most while still maintaining a nice level of flexibility and softness, which is very important in any pair of high-end soccer shoes. One thing that I saw a lot of people worrying about is the actual yarn material itself and how there's exposed stitches. It has some texture to it. Isn't that yarn upper going to snag? Isn't it going to rip very, very easily? It's not like a sock, and that's something I want to get clear. It's much harder, it's much more solid, it's much more durable feeling than a standard cotton sock. But with that being said, it definitely does worry me a little bit that there is no top coat of protection at all on the upper itself. It definitely does appear to be more of an exposed open yarn-like material, so I have reason to believe that it could snag. It definitely is much stronger than I think a lot of people understand that it actually is. It's not like Flyknit in person. It's, like I said, more reinforced, a lot more solid, and a lot more tightly woven than Flyknit technology is. So for that reason, like I said, I don't think durability is going to be too much of an issue. But what does concern me a little bit is that because it is exposed mesh, exposed yarn, it will stain very, very easily. So once you wear those in the mud for the first time, especially because you do have those lighter colors in that Samba pack color that they have for this PrimeKnit shoe, again, I think it'll get dirty pretty quickly, and once a shoe like that is dirty, I can't see it ever getting clean again. As far as the overall kind of package goes as a shoe, I could see this being a production shoe down the line. The problem is actual production. I'm not sure how far along Adidas is with their refinery of the PrimeKnit technology. This particular shoe was also a limited release. It only had there were only 2012 pairs made, and all the pairs that were made in Germany. So I'm not sure if they have the means of mass producing these things yet. All of the Flyknit shoes are being made in China, mass produced, whereas, like I said, PrimeKnit hasn't really been it's been like teased here and there, but hasn't really been officially launched as a mass-produced product. So I'm not sure if this is a concept shoe that we're not going to hear of again for the next couple of years, or if this is a concept shoe for something that is coming very, very soon and will be available to the mass market sooner rather than later. So that's pretty much it as far as my thoughts go for the Samba PrimeKnit. Definitely very optimistic of the design. Definitely think it's a very cool shoe. Just wanted to clear up some pretty common misconceptions, and of course hear your thoughts on what you think about this particular release. Leave your comments down below. If you have any questions for me as well, leave a comment. I will get an answer out to you. There definitely are some discussions to be had about this particular release. If you have any questions regarding anything else around this particular topic, whether it be the material, whether it be the lawsuit, again, feel free to leave your comments down below. And also, if you have any suggestions for other kind of my thoughts videos that you'd like me to make, leave those comments down below. I'm always curious to hear your suggestions. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.